Welcome to Theater Therapy, a podcast for movie lovers who treat going to the movie theater like a therapy session. With co-hosts Aly and Ems, we geek out and deep dive into all things movies, including top picks, movie reviews, best soundtracks, our current hyperfixations, and more. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy today's session.
Ready, Fred?
Ready, George?
Bottoms up!
Hello and welcome back to another session of Theater Therapy. This week, we're doing our sixth installment of the Harry Potter series. We're doing Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Directed by David Yates, screenplay by Steve Kloves. Okay, if you haven't read the book, this book is so good.
It is really good.
I don't know what it is, but the writing in this one, just like, it is one of my favorites. I would 100% agree. It's amazing. And then the movie, just like, I feel like just like another like step up, because like they're older, more serious stuff is happening, a lot more magic, things like that. So it definitely, the scale is getting bigger.
I mean, as always, they've definitely jumbled things around a bit.
Yeah.
Cut out, some moments just move everything along faster.
They cut out quite a bit, again, of some important stuff that would have been useful.
Yeah. And something I found interesting in reading the book is that it starts, like, we meet, like, the prime minister of, the Muggles or whatever, and,
England, yeah.
like, this whole thing, and they tell us about all these different events happening.
There's been, like, murders and hurricanes and
all sorts of stuff, which in the movie, I mean, I love the opening scene where you watch the bridge fall and, like, terror and stuff, but it's kind of interesting. I didn't realize reading the books versus the movie, since it's been so long since I read the books, the Death Eaters don't, like, fly around like that in the, in the books and stuff.
It's not a thing to fly like that in the Harry Potter world. That's not, like, a power you can do.
And we saw that in the Order of the Phoenix as well, with both sides.
Well, it's almost like they made it like a form of evaporating or of disapparating, but it's like, it's showing them moving as they're doing it, which is not how disapparating works.
Which is, very interesting. It's a very cool effect, very cool on screen, but it is inconsistent with that. Other thing, Harry was never in a freaking subway.
No.
In the book. Like, that never, like, there was not even a mention of that. He just stayed in his room.
Well, because he was depressed from Sirius dying.
Yeah, so I'm like, where and how and why did you decide to start it there?
I feel like one thing I will say about this movie that they tried to do is I feel like they tried to make up for not making Harry so Harry in the previous movies, because they tried to, like, make him be a little bit more, like, cheeky and, like, sarcastic in this one. But it's almost overdone, because, like, yeah, he is kind of like that, and you see some small moments throughout the rest of the previous movies. But this one, they almost kind of overdid it, where, like, that's, like, so arrogant of him, and he would not have, he was sad from Sirius dying, he wouldn't have put himself in danger or ran because he was sad about it. That's not really what Harry would do, and he wouldn't, like, go flirt with some random girl at Subway.
Yeah.
Harry's not like that at all.
It was just so weird, and I've always felt like that girl and that little interaction was always so out of place in the movie. Like, I've never liked that scene. I mean, it was always kind of fun seeing Dumbledore appear and, like, them whisk off or whatever. Like, it's fine from there on, but...
Well, because that is one of the scenes I feel like where you first really notice what disapparating is.
Yeah.
Because you finally heard the crack sound, because that's mentioned in previous books, but you have never seen it in a movie up
you
until
see, like,
now.
a little bit of it.
It is kind of cool that they finally introduced that, because in this book is when they learn how to do that.
To do it. Yeah, which is the same in the book. Harry gets to do it in the book at that similar scene, just it happens differently.
Well, but this is also the book where they learn to do it, though.
Yeah, which
and
is
they never
completely
talk
disregarded
about that
in the movies. They have, like, lessons, and there's different, like, practices.
You have to pass the test when you turn 17.
Yeah, Hermione and Ron both get to go take the test, but Harry's too young, and Hermione passes and Ron doesn't because he splinched part of his eyebrow. Yeah, that's
kind of
interesting.
Like then in the next one, when you start Deathly Hallows, you're like, how did they learn how to do this?
And I'm like, so when
did this happen? That they just also know how to
again, the movies just skip any sort of learning that's supposed to happen.
Which, not, like, again, I get that, like, that's kind of a boring thing to cut out. Like, it's like filler, but you should have a little bit of it. Like, just, like, some quick, like, flash scenes that they can show.
Do a little montage.
Because, like, this one, they have a ton of potions classes. Why can't they show, like, one disapparating lesson? Okay, so one of the main things, though, that is different in this book and movie, though, you get a lot more of Voldemort's background in this book, with his parents and his family and kind of where he came from. You hardly get any of that in this movie. Like, literally all you get is pretty much seeing Dumbledore go and get him at the orphanage.
Right.
Like, you don't learn about how his mom was a part of a very prestigious wizarding family. Well, not really prestigious, but, like,
they
pure blood, kind of.
Pure blood.
And she made a muggle fall in love with her with a love potion, get her pregnant. Her dad basically disowns her. So then, and then like years later after she, Tom Riddle's dad, she stops giving the love potion and he hates her and leaves and all this stuff anyways.
Right.
Which is like a major part about why Tom Riddle has all these problems, because his family is literally crazy.
Yeah, well, and they even explained that because they were like the last descendants of Salazar Slytherin, and in order to keep their blood pure, they would marry family members. So there was a bit of insanity from that,
and
that
like
came
because the
through.
incest breeding, things like that.
Yeah,
because you get a lot of back scenes, and it's actually really cool.
Yeah, and very insightful. I'm like, oh, I totally forgot about a lot of this.
And
stuff.
It makes you understand Voldemort a lot more, in the sense of like you kind of see like where he came from and why he's so, I mean, like literally it kind of makes sense. Like
something else, like they did, so one of our first flashback scenes we get in the movie, and towards the beginning they show a few more before this one in the book, but it's when like Dumbledore goes to see Tom Riddle at the orphanage and stuff, and you get a ton more information then. Like the lady explains, like she has his mother's name.
Well, because she came and gave birth to him there, and then she died like a week later or whatever.
Yeah, and she explains like a lot about that backstory and stuff. And like that's all interesting. And then you see Dumbledore's interaction, which is mostly book accurate in the movie. Yeah. However, after Harry and Dumbledore come back out of the memory, Dumbledore's like, did you notice he's already showing signs of like wanting to be alone and liking to collect trophies and lying and be manipulative and
all this stuff. Yeah,
it's interesting because in the book, when Tom Riddle's like, oh, I can do things to people who annoy me, in the movie they changed it, I can do things to people who are mean to me, which I'm like, it's one small little thing, but like it does kind of affect it.
It makes a huge difference though about the meaning of that sentence though.
Right, because like in one way it shows that, he's just being cruel because he can and because he's annoyed.
In the book. And then in the movie it's like, oh, it makes him seem like he's being bullied or like picked on or whatever.
And kids think he's different or whatever.
But when really he's the bully because they just annoy him and he just attacks them.
That's also where you like hear about the cave, which ties in to when at the end of the book they go to the cave to find one of the Horcruxes. In the movie you just see a little picture on the wall of the cave, but in the book they actually tell you like they went there, like he took a couple boys there on like some sort of little outing and did something to him, and the boys were never the same afterwards. I find it so interesting. The book gives you so many clues to the Horcruxes and builds up which Horcruxes are what from the beginning.
And then literally at the end, I wrote this down, at the end, towards the end, before they go get the locket, him and Harry and Dumbledore talk about the Horcruxes. They talk about the diary, the ring, the locket, the Hufflepuff cup, and Nagini.
Yeah, like he has a theory for all of them.
In the movie, Dumbledore never mentions any of that. He doesn't mention the Hufflepuff cup. You don't learn about that until in the Deathly Hallows. And then you don't even... They figured out about the Nagini because of Harry's connection to
Snake
and Voldemort and all that stuff. In the next one, Dumbledore literally figured it out.
I know, and in the movie they make it seem like he doesn't know because he's like surprised. He's like, it's worse than I could ever imagine once they finally see the
But at the same time, it kind of contradicts it though, because then when you see Snape's memory in Deathly Hallows of him talking to Dumbledore and him telling him that Harry is a Horcrux. Like, how did he know that, but he didn't figure out the rest of it? You know what I mean? Like, which he obviously did. In the book, he knew. But in the movie, they make it seem like he doesn't know as much.
Right.
In the sixth one, when in reality, he had it all figured out, obviously, because he told Snape this before he died. So it's like...
I know, it's like, it's a little inconsistent.
Because, like, in Deathly Hallows, when you see Snape's memory, that was obviously from before Dumbledore died, which that was the memory that happened during the Half-Blood Prince right now. Like, it's the memory that happened during this time period, because his hand's injured and all that stuff.
Right.
So, like, there's just a little bit of continuity errors of, like, connecting it back, because that doesn't really make sense. Like, in the book it makes sense, in the movie it doesn't.
Yeah, let's explain more on the Horcruxes and stuff, because you know how like in the book and the movie their whole goal is to get Slughorn's unedited memory. In the book they actually can see the word Horcrux, like, and hear it, and that whole part's there, and then it just kind of fuzzes out
what Slughorn says.
Yeah, what Slughorn says, and I can't remember if it's then or later in the book that he also says, like, could you potentially split into 7? You know, I think it's later on when they finally find the memory. Yeah, and he says 7 because it's the most magical number.
Yeah.
But in the movie, you don't hear the word Horcrux. So then it makes it seem like they don't even know, like they can guess at that he's asking about some sort of dark magic. But in the book, they already know Horcrux. It's like they're more trying to confirm. And like Dumbledore's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's used it. I want to confirm how many for sure. And just make sure that is exactly what he planned to do type of a thing. Whereas the movie, it's like they're trying to figure out what it was he asked to begin with.
Well, and the thing too that you're just reminding me of that like is glossed over in the movie is that Dumbledore has a lot of memories from Tom Riddle. That throughout the book he was like having private lessons with Harry and showing him these to help him understand.
Right.
And
the backstory.
And that's why Dumbledore knows so much about Voldemort, because he's all these memories of from Tom Riddle and things like that, like they are kind of connecting the dots.
Right. Well, he explains that like he started going around to people who had any sort of connection and getting people's memories and stuff, trying to put it together, which they don't make it seem that way in the movie. They pretty much keep it to anything that Dumbledore himself was a part of. Kind of an interesting tidbit, and you miss a ton of the backstory, like we said.
You do, because like when I read the book for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I never even knew that like what happened with his mom and his dad, and you know, like all the murders that he partook in, all those things. I'm like, you never even knew that. Like you would assume that he did those things.
Right.
But it's never like shown or really said, and so it's just kind of like there's some things that should be said. Yeah. So if it's important,
just make things a bit more clear. In the next one, I'm like, how do they figure out which Horcrux, like what's even possibly going to be a Horcrux? Because in the book, he very clearly has kind of a path to follow. There's still like a few that he's like, oh, I don't know, because we don't know for sure if he got certain things.
Dumbledore told him about 5 of them, because you got the diary, the ring, the locket, the cup, and Nagini. And so then technically they only have to figure out 2 more. Which would be Harry, and...
So then there's the Ravenclaw diadem.
Oh, the diadem, yeah.
So he really only has to figure out
2 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, they still have to find them in Deathly Hallows, but... So obviously, like, in the movie, he's already destroyed the diary. Dumbledore destroyed the ring. He has a locket, but he doesn't know about Nagini and the cup, or the diadem and him. So he doesn't know about 4 of them in the movie. When in reality, he knows about 5 of them, he doesn't know about 2. So it's like...
Yeah, it just leaves a lot of,
I don't know why they did that. Like, why did
he figure it out?
Well, and, like, that's honestly what they did in the movie, though, too, is they made it be like... There's some lines where Hermione's like, how are we gonna, like, how do we find them? Blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, literally, how are they supposed to find them if they don't know? When in reality, Dumbledore had figured it out and he told him. So, yeah, I don't know.
And he kind of given him a good groundwork to follow in order to find the others, because he's like, it's going to be something that's trophy-like, that is special, because Voldemort has a huge ego, and he... Like, anywhere he hides it and anything he put it in is going to have some sort of meaning and some sort of fancy or special quality to it.
Something else I was going to talk about was the fact that in the movie, they have the whole attack on the Burrow from Greyback and...
Yeah, during, like, was it Christmas break?
Oh my gosh.
Bellatrix,
yeah. And that never happened in the book.
Yeah.
Bellatrix, like, isn't even in this book.
No, not really, because she's also... I mean, she does go with her sister at the beginning.
Yeah, but she's not in the tower when Dumbledore gets killed. She's not in that fight. She's not in the Burrow, because the Burrow doesn't get tacked.
I think they just really enjoyed her.
I think so.
The actress who brought her to life did an amazing job, so I'm not mad about it. Let's get back, though, and talk about the beginning with Snape and Narcissus Malfoy. I know I didn't say that right.
Narcissus.
Because shut up.
Oh my gosh, you can't get anybody's names right.
Because that does happen in the book where Narcissa and Bellatrix go to see Snape. That scene does play out a little bit different in the book versus the movie.
It's pretty much the same, though.
It's pretty much the same, other than Bellatrix questions Snape about, like, his intentions. She doesn't think more, and
he's very convincing.
Yeah, and so he kind of convinces them that he's on their side.
To be honest, though, in the books, like, in the movie, I feel like Snape has a good redemption arc. Like, you feel like you like him enough. In the books, I hate him the whole time. I don't think he deserves a redemption arc because he's honestly awful in the books.
Yeah.
He doesn't ever really have very many good moments. Not enough to counteract all the awful crap he does to Harry and the trio and, like,
but can
everything.
You blame him? I'm a Snape lover. He's
in the
been
books,
so tortured his whole life. You know?
I mean, yes and no.
Yeah.
You can choose to do different stuff even if you've had a crappy life.
That's true. Harry proves that.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to that. So yeah, he, like, answers all her questions, kind of convinces them, and then Narcissa is the one who asks him to make the unbreakable vow, and he shocks Bellatrix by saying yes, and so then she helps him perform it, whereas in the movie, she asks him, like, make the unbreakable vow, and then they do it. So that scene still plays out, and that's the only time in the book that you really see Bellatrix.
Yeah.
Like we said, she appears a lot in the movie, and one of which is the attack on the burrow. The attack on the burrow, I like that scene.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of a question scene, and a lot of like really hardcore book fans don't like that scene. They say it's like out of place and like it shouldn't have happened. But if in like the course of the movies and stuff, we're now to where it's getting really serious. Voldemort's back. This is no longer just like nothing's happening, and it kind of makes sense to see more contention and more fighting. And that scene is just kind of like, oh, it's like it's getting real now.
Mm-hmm.
They are in danger. There is people out there trying to hurt Harry. It's very Bellatrix coded. Like, that's very much her energy anyways. I've mentioned many times, I'm such a sucker for action.
Yeah. That is a very like high action scene.
Yeah, it's like just enough. Like, you know, it's like a very good
the
tone
one good thing
shift.
about that scene that they did right was having Jenny follow Harry, because she would have done that in the book.
Yeah.
So if that scene hadn't happened,
you kind of start seeing how much they care for each other.
Oh, okay. One of my biggest things with this book is the fact that they literally date for like the last third of this book, and it's not even in the movie at all.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even show that Harry and Ginny literally actually date. Like, they don't just have a kiss and then like have weird flirty moments. No, they're boyfriend and girlfriend for like months.
Yeah, for a while. So this is one of the few scenes I actually like of them together in the movies.
Well, and then at the end, too, in the book, when they actually show Dumbledore's funeral, he tries to break up with Ginny because he's like, I have to go off and do this. And she's like, I'm not letting you break up with me. She goes, no, like, kind of a whole deal. And I'm like...
But then she's very understanding, and she's like, you do what you need to do. I understand.
Ginny is so good.
Yeah, she's kind of like, I'll still be here type of a thing.
She is, like, so tough. Like, she is no...
Yeah, her whole line of... Like, yeah, I've dated other people, but, like,
I was waiting for you, kind of. Yeah. I'm like, like, the romance is so much better in the book.
Mm-hmm. Whereas the movie just does it so
Same
wrong.
thing with Ron and Hermione. Like, I love Ron and Hermione in the movie, don't get me wrong. I still love them. But, like, throughout this book, there are moments that, like, you see, okay, there's moments between Ron and Hermione, there's moments between Harry and Ginny throughout the whole book that you can tell that there's, like, underlying stuff, there's waiting for the right moment. And, like, there's a few of those in the movie, but they're, like, not as significant or, like, as, like...
Right. It's, like, blink and you miss it.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel as, like, obvious or as, like, important. But, like, in the book, it's so good.
I mean, there's, like, one moment I can think of is Ginny comes into, like, the Slughorn party and they're having, like, ice cream and stuff.
That never happened.
And she's been crying and, like, Harry stands up for her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I kind of think that's a sweet scene.
It is.
But in the book, like, Ginny was pretty strong.
She would never cry.
She wouldn't have cried over Dean. And also, Harry, like, got out of going to all the Slughorn parties except for, like, the Christmas one that he brought Luna to.
Yeah,
that, and they had the first one on the train to Hogwarts, which is also not in the movie.
Yeah, well, because they don't even show Slughorn on the train.
Just,
anyways,
so many confusing
Harry and Ginny
things.
date in this one, okay, and they are really cute, and they have good chemistry.
And their first kiss, okay, well, yeah, we get some build-up that, you know, they're kind of liking each other or whatever. But, man, does Harry have balls. Because he just goes into the Gryffindor room afterwards, after, like, the Quidditch game that he wasn't included on because he was in detention. And everybody's celebrating, and he sees Ginny, and he just
kisses her.
In front of everyone.
Yep.
He kisses her, and then looks at Ron,
and Ron gets him, like, the nod of approval. By the way,
like, and he hasn't even mentioned to Ron that he kind of has a crush on his sister. I'm like, wow, like, oh my gosh.
I know.
Like...
But see, that's the type of person Harry is in the books. And in the movies, you don't see that part of him in this movie.
My jaw, like, dropped when I was reading it again.
Yeah.
I was like, I cannot believe... And he's been, like, for weeks, you've been in his head, and he's going, I don't want Ron to hate me, and da-da-da-da-da. And then he just... I'm like, wow, what a way to tell him, though.
What's annoying, though, is in the movie, is, first of all, you get their first kiss in the Room of Requirement, which is just
It was
a
very
weird
cringy.
Scene.
It's also
It's such a weird
very cringy scene.
And then... you don't even see anything else after that. And then you get the weird comment from Hermione at the very, very end saying, Ron's so cute that, you know, you and Ginny. Mm-hmm. Which, like, doesn't even show the fact that, like Ron is the one who says, like, who does something in the book. I'm like, why did they cut out all of Ron's good stuff?
I know.
I'm a Ron lover! Ugh! Another thing that they don't talk about is that Lucius Malfoy is in Azkaban after the last book.
Yeah. That's disregarded, and that adds a lot of extra tension between Draco and Harry.
To Harry because he thinks it's his fault.
Yeah,
and Harry's like, "Your dad was a Death Eater. That's not my fault."
Yeah, so that adds like way more tension. The trio also like they do still follow Draco at the beginning and see him like in Borgin and Bots. In the movie, like the werewolf Fenrir
Greyback
is there and his mom's there, but in the book it's just him.
Just small differences like that.
Like, so like little things.
The main thing though too that is different is at the end, after Harry and Dumbledore go get the Horcrux and they come back, the Order of the Phoenix battles with the Death Eaters.
Yeah, in the book, like they have like a full-on battle, and Harry like runs through it and like helps Ginny and sees Neville on the floor.
Bill Weasley's there and he gets injured by Fenrir Greyback. He gets those scratches, which in Deathly Hallows you see him with that, but you never know what happened.
I know. I've always been so confused by that. I thought he just got hurt by a dragon.
No. He gets attacked by a werewolf.
Because again, like, I read the books, like, way back when. So I've forgotten about little things.
Yeah.
And that's also how Molly finally comes to accept Fleur de la Cour.
Yeah, because Fleur's in this book.
Yeah, she's in there a lot. But, yeah, she's like, no, I'm still going to marry him, even though he's been attacked and, like, doesn't look the same. And so then Molly finally accepts her and stuff, which is a cute moment. Anyways.
And that's when Tonks and Lupin actually get together.
And what I find so interesting is books. Okay, I love books because I love picking up on foreshadowing and how authors can like put things in that have grander meanings later on.
I love foreshadowing. I always pick up on good foreshadowing. I know, like, or I love it though if you don't pick up on it and you go back and read something for the second time and you go, "Oh my gosh, like the foreshadowing is crazy." Or
I missed this.
Or if I'm watching a movie and there's like something small foreshadowing and I'm like, "Ooh, that almost seems like it might be important." I'm gonna like put that in the back of my mind. And, like, then, like, something happens, and I'm like, ooh, I was right.
Yeah. And so one of the things is that we see Tonks throughout the book quite a bit. Like, she comes to the burrow. She's the one who finds Harry on the train after he's had his little scuffle with Malfoy. Which is so sad,
because these Luna glasses aren't in the book.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that.
But Luna glasses are cute, so I'm going to have them
anyways. So you see her, you know, in the previous book, she's had, like, kind of colorful hair, kind of been very fun and funky. And now in this one, she has a lot of guilt over Sirius, and she's very down and depressed. And the main reason she's down and depressed is that she's in love with Lupin, and he refuses to be with her because he's a werewolf and all this stuff. And so she has, like, now mousy brown hair. Anyways, she takes Harry up to the castle, or at least to the gates, because he was late, and she got him off the train, and they have to walk. And in the book, something they use a lot, which we only see like one time in the movie, is they can send like Patronuses as a messenger, project their voice through the Patronus. We see one glimpse of this in the Deathly Hallows Part 1 once the Ministry has fallen, but in the book you see it quite a few different times. And so she sends a message up to the castle to have someone come down and like let Harry in through all of the new protections and stuff. And her Patronus has changed to a four-legged, wolfish, doggish creature, which is our first foreshadowing of showing that someone's Patronus can change to match the one that they're in love with. Kind of shows their love for someone somehow, you know? And that becomes a very important little nod to Severus Snape's Patronus later on, showing that he's always been in love with Lily. Which I thought that was like, literally I almost cried when I read that in the book. I'm like, that is such a beautiful thing. That's such cool foreshadowing. And like, it really makes it like more of a thing, you know, than the movie does. I mean, the movie, that scene still always makes me like so sad and so cry. And he's like, Lily, after all this time.
Always.
It's just so good. Anyways, so that's something I really enjoyed. There was lots of foreshadowing. I mean, with the Horcruxes, with Malfoy. Can we just say, I freaking love Draco Malfoy.
I know. This movie, he's so much interested. Okay, one thing I do wish they would have included in the movie that they didn't include is that the scene where he's, like, crying in the bathroom, he's, like, talking to Myrtle. Like, he, like, Myrtle, like, connects to him in like, a cute way. And I'm like, why didn't they show that?
I know.
Because it makes him seem more like just, like, a damaged, like, teen who's been thrust into this dark world versus him actually choosing evil.
Yeah. I mean, it is still such a heart-wrenching scene to see him crying in the mirror.
Tom
he
Felton.
Does so good. I love him. This is like peak Draco movie for me. I absolutely adore him in this movie. My heart hurts for him in this movie. He's so tortured, so beautiful.
One thing you gotta know about us, though, too, is that we love the bad boys usually.
Yeah.
So I always have a soft spot for them.
Same. I've always...
The misunderstood bad boy is just, like, the best character.
The book sometimes was a bit confusing and a bit more overcomplicated. And I'm like, Harry, you're such a freaking idiot. Sometimes I swear he's just the stupidest person ever. Because I'm like, you know about the room of requirement. You've used the room of requirement.
I know, and I'm like, oh, he just disappeared on the map. No, duh.
I'm like, you know how it works, you stinking idiot. Like, figure it out. So that was kind of frustrating in the book. Because I'm like,
yeah,
come on.
I agree.
But I will say, something I enjoyed in the movie, which may be a controversial opinion. I really thought it was very fun and cheeky to see Harry be like,
I am the chosen one.
I am the chosen one. Yeah, that was kind of fun, and I know that's a bit controversial, but it's just like such a sassy little Harry
I know,
moment.
it's hard because in the book he hates the attention.
Right, and like he would have never said that and kind of enjoyed the idea, and he actually gets mad at Hermione for like not confiscating like the love potions. But that scene is so iconic. I don't know, that line has become a very iconic line.
Yeah.
And it's reused.
I know, it's hard because it's like you love that line for part of it, and then Harry would never actually.
Yeah, it's like, but
that.
actually, that's not.
So it's like, yeah,
it's like a questionable thing. And something else when Dumbledore's like, Slughorn likes to collect students, you know, powerful, whatever. And Harry's like, would you like me to let him, sir? I love that line. I don't know why. It's like some of the ways he delivers his line, just as like butter. Like it just soothes my soul. I just like love the way he says it.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's like so like fun.
Well, and, like
and so
the scene in the movie where he goes with Slughorn down to Hagrid's or whatever, and he's like, "Well, then by all means, come along, sir."
Yeah, like
that
scene
is so book
so
Harry.
Funny.
So book Harry. That scene is.
Yeah, I just really enjoy the movie. It makes it very fun to see Harry like kind of playing the game with Slughorn, whereas in the book, Dumbledore doesn't like expressly tell him so early on like you need to like befriend Slughorn.
Yeah.
And so Harry avoids going to like anything. Whereas in the movie you see him
actively trying.
Yeah, he's like, "Do you fancy a butterbeer?" And
yeah.
like goes in there and he like.
Which I will say is kind of like funny to watch Harry have to suck up to somebody.
Yeah.
Because like he hates Snape, so he's never sucked up to Snape. He is like normal, you know, whatever with McGonagall, and then like, but like him having to like suck up to Slughorn is so funny.
Yeah, I just think it adds a very fun twist to the movie. Anyways, something else, like, they obviously don't have, like, any house elves in this movie yet again. They were quite involved in the movie. Harry finds out that he has inherited Creature
and Grimmauld Place from Sirius.
Right. And so he begrudgingly takes over like having Creature as his own. He wants to like just get rid of him, but then
he just sends him to work at Hogwarts. Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. And he uses Creature and Dobby to spy on
Draco
Malfoy. Yeah. Which, and then they're like, he went to the room of requirement. I'm like, yeah, freaking Harry, you're so stupid. You already should have known that. Anyways, so just like little things. But anyways, as for the big old finale, that scene, crushing.
And we actually get a funeral for Dumbledore in the book.
Right.
And like the centaurs and the more people come and pay their respects and
he's like buried at Hogwarts.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really enjoyed and I cried through that scene in the book. But like in the movie, when Dumbledore falls and everybody's there and like there's this whole moment where everyone raises their wands and gets rid of the dark mark, like that scene is cinema gold. Like it is really beautiful. So touching. So I cry every time, no matter how many times I see it. I always tear up because it's just like something about everybody being so united. It's just such a beautiful scene. So I was kind of sad it's not in the book. But at the same time, you don't get some of the conversation and like thoughts that happen at the funeral because we don't see the funeral.
Because in the book, Ginny comforts Harry a lot through that and things like that because they're together and
right.
I don't know, just small things like that. That I'm like, well, again, if they make a TV show,
they gotta include.
They better freaking include some of this stuff.
After the whole battle, like everybody kind of explains what went on, and Harry tells them it was Snape and like all these things. And he tells them because right before Harry went with Dumbledore to retrieve the locket,
he finds
out that Snape was the one who overheard the prophecy and told Voldemort, which is not mentioned in the movie.
Mm-mm. Well, because again, they don't even talk about anybody hearing the prophecy at all. So no,
right? Like I think it's just kind of implied somewhat.
Yeah,
but
like,
in the book, he
learns
finds
and then he
out,
tells Order of the Phoenix, and that's kind of what causes the tension between them.
Yeah, and they're like, why did Dumbledore trust him then? Like, if he knew this, like, they can't figure it out. So it kind of adds that whole thing, and yeah, it's just a very interesting, like, they just left out some dialogue points, some very important conversations. But for the most part, overall, very good movie.
And the book is so good. They're both really good by themselves.
Yeah.
And then like the connections that they do have are good. So it's like it's still very well done. And like you said, one of the top ones to watch for sure.
Yeah. And so far it's been one of my favorite ones to read.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, obviously we didn't discuss every single tiny little thing, but like we said, we've been doing kind of like just the stuff that stands out to us the most. Comment down below anything that stood out to you. Then we'll just see you guys next week for the finale.
Oh,
book
so
7.
Crazy. Yeah, but follow us on all the usual stuff. YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, Apple.
Yep, I'll tag down below.
Everywhere. So, but yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Hope you had a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you guys in the new year.